If you'll indulge me just a moment, I want to tell you a quick story. I think most of y'all know that I was called into ministry when I was 20 years old. I just got accepted to flight training with the Air Force and gave that up. I was a student at Memphis State University. I was dating a blonde-headed young woman named Shelly Henderson. She's now redheaded. That's its other story. And the church I went to, Calvary Church of the Nazarene in Memphis, Tennessee, they invited me to do a sermon. The pastor did. Basically, he was going out of town. They had nobody else to do it. So he asked me to do this, my first sermon anywhere. And we had a really good friend. My best friend at that time was a guy named Andy Mock. And Andy was there for everything. The best Christian I know or have ever known in my life was Andy Mock. He actually drove Shelley to the event where I proposed to her. Andy was that big of a deal in our lives, and he was a huge supporter of this new call in my life. And so the day that I was going to preach my first sermon at this church, it was one of those churches, where they had the altar with, like fake flowers in front of actually the pulpit and a Bible on it. And he turned that Bible to the verse that we read from Jeremiah. Do not say, I am only a boy, for you shall go to all who I send you to go to, and you shall speak whatever I command you. Do not be afraid of them. I'm not, by the way. Mostly. I am with you, and I will deliver you, says the Lord. And he put that there, and if Andy hadn't been there at the beginning, I probably wouldn't be here right now. Somewhere in your life, you have an Andy Mock. Andy Mock died when he was 22, tragically. He was in seminary. But everything I do is through him. And today you're here because an Andy Mock was in your life somewhere. They may be right beside you, and if so, say thank you. If they're not, say thank you anyway to God for giving them to you. Now I'm going to pull this back into why we're here right now. Earlier, David said to me, he goes, man, there's a lot of people here. Why are all these people here? And I pointed at this organ. I said, I think some of this is David-Charles. Many of y'all are here because of the music tradition of this church. And unlike I can do with Andy, you can do with David-Charles and say thank you. Today, next week, be here for that. It's important to say thank you to those who God has given us to make us into whom God would have us to be. One other way that we're going to find new people in our lives, by the way, is by continuing to be together. And as you leave the church today, you're going to find some resources, what we call journey groups. These are gifts of community that God gives us to be together. They're small groups. You can learn together. You can knit together. You can garden together. There's all kinds of ways to be together. But the big thing is for us to continue to be together. For God only knows what one Bible turned to a passage can accomplish, or what music excellence can accomplish. Be together and journey with us. I'm glad you're here. Now let us walk in love as Christ loved us and gave himself for us an offering and sacrifice to God.